Alright, Shalom Hebrews. Shalom Hebrews. This is Israel being Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood. This is Israel being Israel for the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, Hebrews, I want to share a little history on this little error in our history that's basically being wrote up wrong. You see, I got in the other videos how we Hebrews abandoned our heritage to the Babylonian scribes. And the Babylonian scribes will be kin to the people that conquered us and that destroyed the Assyrian Empire. You see what I'm saying? So they not gonna put no true history out, and they ain't gonna have no correct history for the simple fact that correct history don't benefit them, you know. And I want to go back to an era in history to where we Hebrews have to get an understanding, because there's a lot of Hebrews walking around with myths. And from these myths, you know, I call them the Babylonian scribe myths, you know, because the people who we abandoned our heritage to were Babylonian scribes. You know, they were Amorites. You know, and that's a whole nother history. You know, I just specifically want to deal with the history dealing with the Assyrian, so-called Assyrian captivity of the northern kingdom. You know, and we know a lot of Hebrews was taken to Assyria, or that they kidnapped, you know what I'm saying, through people. But the reason why they was kidnapping the people, you know, it's not wrote up in history, you know, correctly. You know, they don't wrote it up in history backwards and stuff to benefit they lie, or the longest continuous lie in history is that the Sephardi and the Ashkenazi are the Hebrews. You know, that's the longest ringing lie in world history. You know, and that lie just about the whole earth believe. You know, it's the most biggest, longest ringing lie that has ever been told. And it started from around the times that the Northern Kingdom army was taken away. You see, that's like I say, you know, the so-called Assyrian captivity. And the reason that I say that is because if you kind of like look at Tanakh history and then look in world history, you will see that, you know, something ain't right. Something ain't right, because if the Assyrians were so mean and so evil towards the northern kingdom, you know, they wouldn't have did trade with the Assyrians. You know, we was the vehicle, we was the middleman between Assyria and Egypt. But what's not understood in history is like, man, it's kind of like, man, it's hard to explain it in words, but I'm going to try to. It's like the people that the Nephilims mixed up with. Some of them got, you know, pigmentation, like the, you know, the Ethiopians, you know, the troglodyte Ethiopians. Those are cave dwellers, but the Nephilims mixed with them, and it's a stock that had Nephilim mixed with them, that we was mostly in combat with, and we was mostly at odds with. And those are gonna be the Cain descendants, and Cain descendants that have no pigmentation. So we was in battle with the majority of the people that didn't have no pigmentation, even though we didn't, you know what I'm saying, we didn't just really judge a person by their pigmentation, but more or less by their character, because you can see when we was under siege with the Assyrians, it could have been doing King Hezekiah time, and them four leapers or four white boys that was out, and then they heard the horses of the Ethiopians coming, the Assyrians did, and then they took off. And then we come out and then got their stuff because we was hemmed up in the city. You know what I'm saying? That could have been Ahaz. You know what I'm saying? That was one of them kings. I'm gonna go back and, make sure. A lot of kings history we'll be dealing with. But anyway, it was a slick race war going on. It was a slick race war going on during the Assyrian captivity time. For the simple reason is that the Assyrians were fighting for their life. Man, if you look at this map, and you will see that the people surrounding the Assyrian Empire, the people that surrounding the Assyrian Empire were all non-pigmented people. You know what I'm saying? That's like, the Parians. This is where King Midas and his folks come from, and all this is going to be up by the Caucasus Mountain. You see, this is the Caucasus Mountain. You see Scythian, that's Ashkenazi. Scythian is the code word for Ashkenazi in history. They'll tell you if you type in Scythian or Ashkenazi, then they gonna go on and just tell you that the Scythians are the Ashkenazi people. But Ashkenazi code name in history is Scythian, and they had Ashkenazi history. I'm talking about the Ashkenazi Jews today, and they only became Jews or practice what they call Judaism is after they settled in our heritage during the Babylonian Wars, because Ashkenazi made up the Chaldean nation. Matter of fact, the Scythians controlled the Chaldean nation. The Scythians controlled the Chaldean nation, and then there's history, showing this also. You know what I'm saying? That's like this guy, let me see, and also the Assyrians called Ashkenazi. This is the Israelite Brotherhood site on YouTube. I got a lot of history on there. Alright. You see the kingdom of Ashkenazi was first associated with the Scythians. You know what I'm saying? With the Scythian region. And then they moved all over. But as you read down, you know what I'm saying? The king of Scythians of the lineage of Magog is in agreement with the Assyrian chronicles that report Magog as the founder of the Scythian nation in northern Mesopotamia. The Ashkenazi, that's they, kinfolks, they all merged in together. But this Roman, this Roman Hellenistic historian, they try to suppress a whole lot of his history. He ain't gonna be just too prominent in history because he shed light on Ashkenazi's association with Chaldea under the name Scythian. The Scythians, you know what I'm saying, possessed the land of Chaldea, Mesopotamia, 1500 years before any other culture. You know what I'm saying? And they held Chaldea in them areas way before the Egyptians come around. You see, the Scythians are gonna be the people who conquered Assyria and destroyed Assyria. But the Scythians are Ashkenazi, and their name is hid in history, and it's like Ashkenazi settled in our heritage in the Discopolis. They gonna be part of this history, what I'm finna show, because they was basically the problem, you know what I'm saying, around the Assyrian times. They was the problems. They was the peoples, you know what I'm saying, in the they had come down from the Caucasus Mountain, and they had started kicking it. But you see Scythia, and that's the Caucasus Mountain right there. And then that's where Ashkenazi come from. That's where Gog, Magog, Cain kids, see Cain kids mixed with them angelic beings, then and incest, his sister, and all kind of wickedness was up in the Caucasus Mountain. Them people didn't have no pigmentation, and Cain wasn't giving no instructions after he killed his brother Abel. And then the Creator told him to get on down, get on away from there, to get on up out the, the garden and stuff, to get on away from her. And took his skin color, as a mark. And he didn't have no pigmentation. I got videos explaining this and how he went up into the Caucasus Mountain and them parts, but how his descendants would come later on and build underground cities in Turkey. You know what I'm saying? They had underground cities, and they are called the Hittites. The Hittites, they'll try to say that the Hittites are Hith descendants from Canaan. But guess what? We didn't name him in Cain's genealogy. That's going to be Cain's descendants, not the Canaanites, but Cain, C-A-I-N. You know what I'm saying? His wicked tail. And his descendants will live underground in Turkey, and they will start all kind of stuff. And then they would also live underground in the Zagros Mountains in Iran. Yeah, they would all live in mountains, and then they'll some kind of way get down the coast, and they'll get up in the mountains in Ethiopia too. They'll get up in the mountains in Ethiopia. They'll come from them ways, you know what I'm saying, around them Edomites' heritage, and they would get in Ethiopia, and they would be lodged in the mountains, and then they would mix with them Sudanese people. That's why some of them got straight hair, and you be wondering why them folks got dark skin with straight hair and look kind of like they got a light mixed look. That's cause the Nephilims got in and mixed with them, and then it's gonna be that wicked stock that enslaved us, that Nubian, Ethiopian stock that come on when Joseph passed away, that didn't know the works of Joseph. We was kin to the Mishwish, the Egyptians of Lower Egypt. This is Upper Egypt. This is what they call Upper Egypt. And that's gonna be them, the Nubian stock. But Lower Egypt is, Upper Egypt is gonna be on this side of the Nile. That's where it's nothing built, nothing, just pure caves and they got some temples and stuff, but ain't hardly nothing. But all the good stuff about Egypt is gonna be on the west side of the Nile, and that's all the pyramids and the major temples and the temples that go back to the origin of the first dynasties of Egypt is all gonna be on the west side of the Nile. And those, people can be considered what they say West Africans and stuff, because they come from all over these parts. That's like his baby pyramids in the Sahara and what they call Libya. Now what we should all understand is the map that we got today with its political boundaries and so forth come from when the League of Nations divided Africa up. They had, divided Africa up and cut its borders down, and they switched peoples around, and they did a whole lot of old evil, wicked stuff to Africa as they doing today. And it's like them Africans are kind of like green and slow, because, the people that's doing them wrong been doing them wrong for a long time. And basically the people that's been doing them wrong control the whole Africa. And then the Africans that do prosper is in agreement with the colonizers, the people that's holding the rest of them back. It's a lot going on. Hebrews, it's a lot going on. But anyway, Egypt territory is extended way over here. They got baby pyramids in the Sahara, and what they'll try to do, they'll try to cover the pyramids up with Berber history. That's like when us Hebrews violated the covenant and we broke the covenant and ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars, and it's basically gonna be at the end of this history what I'm gonna explain about Assyria when we went into Africa and breaking the covenant and doing the Egyptian worship where we built baby pyramids in Lower Libya, and what they do, they'll try to cover their history up, that our history inside Africa with Berber history, and Berber gonna be the peoples that came into Africa to see peoples that got like an Amorite stock, Amorite Nephilim stock, and they was all over North Africa, and they were going to the interior of Africa, but they was all over North Africa, and them Berbers, folks, they try to cover our history up with, and the Berbers ain't built no pyramids then, and they ain't built none now, and they ain't built no underwater systems, irrigation for water, foggers, none of that stuff to bring water up out the sands. They can't even do that stuff now today, but they will ascribe all important history of North and Central Africa to the Berbers. That's what they do, because the Berbers are kindred to the people who we abandon our heritage to, the Sephardi Jews. They got an Amorite stock. They are basically Amorites mixed with Hamites. Okay, now this is what I want to shed light on during the Assyrian times, during the so-called Assyrian captivity, because it wasn't no captivity like they explained. It was really a slick race war going on, and that the Assyrians needed our fighters to help them, even though we was wicked and we shouldn't have been on the Egyptians' religion, which doomed us and allowed other nations and peoples to take advantage of us, like what's being happening now. But as you see right there, that's the pagan kingdom. Them gonna be some non-pigmented folks. All the Thracians and the Greeks and all the Lydians and all those folks. See, this was what Midas and them come from, and Midas and them would kick it in Assyria, and this is Assyria in 824 BC, the dark green part. You see what I'm saying? And that's gonna be about the time when Prophet Jonah went up to Assyria to tell them folks to get right, and it was this brother named Usher Dan. He could have been some kin or had some relatives with the tribe of Dan. We don't know. But this is what I can tell you about the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians, Usher is going to be a son of Nimrod, his founders, and that the Nimrods, the Hamites founded, Ham's great grandkids founded Assyria, and they founded the monuments in the places, in what they would call the Mesopotamian area. And that's like the Sumerians and the Akkadians, those gonna be Hamite black folks. But then them Scythians, really slick Ashkenazi, because as I told you, Ashkenazi code name in history is Scythian. Well, those Scythians, those folks would come down and kick it in Assyria. And they will kick it in Assyria. You see the Sumerians and the Paragons and the Scythians, all those folks didn't have no pigmentation. And they all come from the Caucasus Mountain. And like I said, Turkey, this will be Turkey where the Paragons at. They had underground cities, and them folks lived underground and stuff. And that's how they had underground cities where hundreds of thousands of folks lived underground and stuff. Well, them folks would come up out them caves, and because Samaria and Akkad and all those civilizations had, technology going on, and but because it was so hot and stuff, them folks kind of like lived underground. But they'll come up and then they'll start kicking it, you know what I'm saying, they start kicking it in Assyria. and then they start doing all kind of wicked stuff, and then that's when the mixed population really started to come about. Like I said, that them folks, Cain descendants, them Nephilims, who Ashkenazi and them was mixed up with, they would, come on down to the Zagros, from the Caucasus Mountain, the Caucasus Mountain right here. And they will get on down to the Zagros, and then they'll come into Babylon. And then they mostly got thick because Babylon gonna be right next to Euphrates, gonna be right next to the Zagros mountains and stuff. That's gonna be right next door, and they didn't have the political boundaries that they have today. They didn't have the political boundaries that they have today. All these political boundaries today gonna come from World War One and Two, when the European nations, slick Ashkenazi's descendants and relatives, divided the whole world up. That's when them folks done kind of like them whooped them Arab like folks and them Chinese folks, and they done took the whole what they call the Middle East over. But back before then, them folks had come from the Caucasus Mountain, and then they got into the Zagros. And then the Zagros mountains is like some caves, just like up in Turkey where they had underground cities and stuff. Well, in the Zagros mountains, they hightail it to Babylon, and they mostly got lost in Babylon because the Assyrians were some fighters, and they was kind of like vicious and violent, and them folks just wanted to eat. But then they started learning about the military skills and stuff that the Assyrians had. The Syrians, them black folks used to go rob them folks and do all kind of stuff to them, and they was jacking them and robbing them and stuff. Well, them folks started to get real deep. That's like Baratuta. Baratuta is gonna be Ashkenazi's. He gonna be an Ashkenazi, and then he gonna be King Midas. King Midas' daddy. He gonna be King Midas' daddy. And then, he would, kick it around in Syria, you know what I'm saying? And, after they got some education, this, years later, around about the 800 BCE and 700, 800 BC, them parts is when them folks start to put clothes on, and they riding around robbing now. You see what I'm saying? They riding around robbing and stuff now. They done put some clothes on. They got horses and stuff. They done got some education and stuff up in Assyria. And that's when Baratuta, was kicking it in Assyria. Around about them times. I think 640 BC or something like that. He was kicking it 740 BC. Around about them times he was kicking it. In Assyria, and then that's when the prophet Jonah was sit there. The prophet Jonah was sit there, sent to Assyria, and this is in 640 BC. So we know the Assyrians couldn't have been no hostile place for Hebrews, because here it is, Hebrews, a prophet from the tribes of Israel was sent to Nineveh, and that's going to be the capital of Assyria. And if you read the prophet Jonah's history, you will see that he was telling them to get right, to stop all this robbing and all this bloodshed and all this killing, and y'all need to straighten up, because the Creator finna bring destruction on you. And guess what? Because those Assyrians knew about us Hebrews and our heritage and our connection to the Creator, the Assyrians humbled themselves and put on sackcloth. You see what I'm saying? Animals and beasts and everything. And we know that ain't no beast. You know what I'm saying? We know ain't no beast. You know what I'm saying? The king passed a decree. You know what I'm saying? When Prophet Jonah told them to repent and change their evil ways, that's because them Cain descendants and Ashkenaz, all them folks kind of like become one. Japhet descendants become one with Cain descendants. Japhet descendants become one with Cain descendants. Japhet descendants became one with Cain descendants in the Nephilims, and they wouldn't have no pigmentation. The Nephilims would get Japhet descendants, and they would all mate, as you can see with Tubal-Cain mentioned in the Tanakh history, in the genealogy of the nations of Ham's and Shem's and Japhet's sons. Well, Japhet kids gonna have Tubal-Cain, and that showed that they had mixed with Cain's seed in the Nephilim. So they gonna all be one, and they will be kicking it in Assyria, because they come up out them caves, and they gonna come with some food and some clothes and some education at, and they came to Nineveh, and they was kicking it there. And then the prophet Jonah had went there to tell them folks to stop kicking it with them folks and stop all this evilness that they got going on, because them folks was robbers. They'll go rob the other nations, as they got together when they tricked Assyria, when Ashkenazi the Scythians tricked Assyria through Midas, when he said that he was going down to rob Media in the other nations, them other little light mixed folks, and then he got them all together, and they would go back and destroy Assyria, knock Assyria off. And guess what? The Assyrians before then had came and got some of us Hebrews and tried to get us to help them, to save them. I guess they must have known it was over. But history is wrote up different. History is not wrote up right, because our heritage and the people who are responsible for world history, like we was responsible for world history when we, the Tanakh ain't nothing but world history. When we was responsible for world history and writing what this tribe did, or what these folks did, or what that folks did. But then we broke the covenant, and we lost those privileges. And those privileges fell into some Babylonian scribes' hand. The people who are all together, the Persians, the Scythians, and, the Amorites. The Amorites were mixed heavily with the Nephilims. I got history showing this in the other videos, how the Amorites mixed with the Nephilims, with the so-called giants, and how they became one, and how they produced Sodom and Gomorrah and so forth. But anyway, them folks, the Scythians kicking it, in Assyria, Ashkenazi kicking it in Assyria, and around about 760 BC is when prophet Jonah was sent up there to tell them Assyrians to get right and to cut all that old evil wickedness out that they was doing. And then their king had made a decree, and the king during that time was Ashur-dan the second, I think. And the word of the Elohim came up to Jonah the second time, saying, see, Jonah was mad. He wanted them to get destroyed. He wanted them to get destroyed and to perish. You know what I'm saying? He wanted the Creator to destroy them, and he was more worried, about a tree that perished, that growed up, a gourd that had growed up overnight and perished. He was more worried and sorrowful that than for the people, that the Creator had sent him to tell them to repent and to change their evil ways. All right, and the word of the Elohim came unto Jonah the second time, saying, arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it, preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Elohim. See, first he tried to escape. He didn't even want to go tell them nothing. A fish had to swallow him up and spit him out, so he can, go back and do it. He didn't want to tell them folks nothing. He was trying to get away, and he was hoping that the Creator would destroy them. He probably knew that those same people who he was telling to get right would eventually destroy us. And that happened. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Elohim. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, a 3 days' journey. And Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and cried and said, yet 40 days, and but shall be destroyed. You see, the Assyrians ain't do nothing to them, and in Assyria, capital always been Nineveh. So the people of Nineveh believed Yah and proclaimed a fast and put on sackcloth, from the greatest of them even unto the least of them. For word came unto the king of Nineveh, and he arose from his throne and laid his robe upon him and covered him with sackcloth and set in ashes, and he caused it to be proclaimed and published throughout Nineveh by a decree of the king and his nobles, saying, let neither man nor beast nor flock taste anything, let them not feed nor drink water. So he was slick talking about Ashkenazi, those folks that had come up out the Caucasus Mountain. They had animal skins on. They had animal skins. They ain't had no clothes, and we call them beasts. I got videos explaining how Ashkenazi got in the Israelite heritage and how them folks would come up out the mountain with animal clothes on and stuff. So they would call them beasts, because you can't stop it. If this is a city with hundreds of thousands of people, that you ain't gonna be able to stop no animal from drinking. You see what I'm saying? And it'll be foolish and ridiculous to even suggest stopping some animals from drinking. But he was talking about those folks that come up out the Caucasus Mountain. Them folks. He was talking about them that come up out the Caucasus Mountain. All right. But let man, let me see. Let neither man nor beast, herd nor flock taste anything, let them not feed nor drink water, but let man and beast be covered with sackcloth. Now this is a king's order. Now who in the world finna go put some sackcloth walking around on some animals? Them was them folks that come up out the Caucasus Mountain. But let man and beast be covered with sackcloth and cry mightily unto Yah. Now what animal gonna be crying unto the Creator? Yeah, let them turn everyone from his evil way and from his violence that is in his hands. Now, what animals gonna have violence in their hands that need to pray to the Creator to stop doing the wickedness that they doing? It ain't an animal on earth but them folks that come up out them mountains that had on them animal skins. They had them animal skins on, and they was nasty and filthy, and they called them animals beasts. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we call them folks, because they didn't have no civilization. All right. And then he would tell them to put the sackcloth on. All right. Who can tell if Yah will turn and repent and turn away from his furious anger, that we perish not? And Yah saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, and Yah repented of his evil that he should do unto them. But guess what? Right after that, right after he did that, and then them folks must have got back wicked, because the prophet Nahum, the prophet Nahum went, he didn't go, but he tell you about Assyria's destruction right after that. And that's right after prophet Jonah left. You know what I'm saying? 760 BC. Well, in them folks went and started robbing. Them white folks went and started robbing and started roaming around, and they was taking Assyria over, and they had already took the southern end of Babylon over from coming from the Zagros mountains. Coming from the Zagros gonna be right here. All this is the Zagros. All this is the Zagros. Where you see Scythian, that's Nephilim. All this is the Zagros, and that's all this right here. That's all this right here. That's all this right here. All this is the Zagros. All this is the Zagros. Going on down from there. Going on down from there. On down from there. Right there. So, them folks would start kicking it in Assyria, and then they went and started robbing and stuff. They went and robbed media, tore them folks up. And then them folks was settled there. And then that's when the prophet Nahum, come in and then give you his oracles, about Nineveh and how it was going to be destroyed. And he was telling you the destruction of the Assyrian Empire. You know what I'm saying? The Assyrian Empire came in 612 BC, it was over with. But check this out, Hebrews. Just because Assyria knew that they was getting destroyed and that Scythian Ashkenazi element was behind it, guess what them folks did? Guess what them folks did? Them folks came and took some of the tribes of Israel, the northern kingdom. You see what I'm saying? They went and kidnapped the northern kingdom, but and tried to get some Egyptians, some old black folks, to come help them. And I'm gonna show you this. You know, this is what happened. You know, this is around about 722 BC, and the Telecaplizer. This is his son right here. This is his son, Sargon. That's Sargon, and as you can see, that is not no white man. You can look at his nose and tell that ain't no white man. You see what I'm saying? And that's his partner right there. You know, he giving the rulership. You know, that's Sargon. And Sargon is going to be one of the dudes that came and took some of the fighters. You know, his daddy had already took some, but he kept coming back looking for some more folks to get to take to help him. You know, because, you know, like I say, it was a slick race war going on. It was a slick race war going on, and history is not wrote up telling us the truth. You know, history ain't wrote up telling us the truth, man, of what happened, because if them folks tell the truth of what happened, then that's the, you know, it'll shed light on who they is. You see what I'm saying? The so-called Assyrian captivity was a slick race war. And with them folks, you know, coming up at the Caucasus Mountain and surrounding Assyria, Assyria needed help. And we was on Egyptian religion, so we didn't have no protection. So guess what the Assyrians did? Now even Prophet Isaiah had even made a prophecy, man, about this happening. And this is in 725 BC. You know, this is in 725 BC before it even came to pass. Now, this would happen 3 years later. The Assyrians would come get the fighters. You know, and as I showed, the fighters was on the east side of the Jordan. They was easy to kidnap too. And then us being on that Egyptian religion from the time of Jeroboam, you know, we didn't get it cleaned up. To King Josiah cleaned it up. All right, in that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, whom the Elohim of hosts shall bless, saying, Blessed be Egypt, my people, and Syria, the work of my hand, and Israel, mine inheritance. And the reason that the Creator say, you know, the Egyptians, his people, is that he talking about the ones that Joseph, our forefather Joseph, mixed up with when we was in Egypt. You know, a mixed multitude left with us, and those are going to be the Egyptians from Lower Egypt. You know, those are what you call the West Africans from the west of the Nile. Lower Egypt. Those going to be the people from Lower Egypt. Those going to be the people from Lower Egypt. You know, it's a difference between this Nubian, Ethiopian stock than this Lower Egypt, Mishwish Sahar stock. You know, the Sahar stock is who we was kin with, and they left with us during the Exodus, and they would cause us trouble. But when the Assyrians needed help, and I believe they was of that stock right there, the upper Egypt stock, you know, too. And you know, I know that, you know, that Assyria was founded, you know, by the Hamites, and, you know, Nimrod and Usher and his son and so forth. But, you know, I believe that these folks, you know, mix, you know, they all Hamites, and but these folks, you know, put, and them folks gonna have some input there too, as I'm gonna show. All right, Assyria would come into Egypt and put the Mishwish tribes on the throne. You know, this gonna be the first time that Egypt got conquered. Egypt got conquered. You know what I'm saying? The Assyrian Empire began an invasion of Egypt in 671 BC and installed the Sattite kings from West Africa who controlled Lower Egypt. You know, even though, you know, we was cool with them folks, we was cool with them in the wrong way. We was cool with them like far as worshiping their religion. I believe long as we worship their religion, you know what I'm saying, that we would, you know, stay cool with them. But the Mishwish folks, you know what I'm saying, caused our downfall. And look, and it's like when the Assyrians came in to Egypt, they came in and put the Sattite kings on the throne. Okay, one of the Sattite kings, Necho, killed King Josiah after he cleaned their evil religion up that was on us since Jeroboam days. See, Jeroboam was chased to Shawshank. Shawshank gonna be a Libyan West African Mishwish king, you know, from that they built Lower Egypt. You know, they the founders of the whole Egypt. Egypt wouldn't have its technology or nothing if it wasn't for them folks from Lower Egypt. You know, that's what Heliopolis was on. That's where Heliopolis was, where the priest of On was, where Joseph, you know, married, you know, his daughter, and in the tribe of Manasseh and Ephraim come out of that. You know, well, them would be their relatives who the Assyrians came back in and put them on the throne, took the Nubians, kidnapped them and whooped them and chased them out of power. The Nubian Ethiopian stock from Lower Egypt. I mean from Upper Egypt, you know, because the Sattite kings controlled Lower Egypt, who we was cool with, but the ones from Upper Egypt, we was in conflict with them. They had a strong Nephilim stock too. And this is why this was said right here. All right. In the year that Tartan came unto Ashdod, when Sargon the king of Assyria sent him. All right, now, all right. Let me see. And, let me see. At that same time spake the Elohim by Isaiah the son of Amos, saying, Go and loose thy sackcloth from off thy loins, and put on thy shoes, and put off thy shoes from thy feet. And he did so, walking naked and barefoot. And the Elohim said, Like as my servant Isaiah had walked naked and barefoot 3 years for a sign and wonder upon Egypt and upon Ethiopia, so shall the king of Assyria lead away the Egyptian prisoners and the Ethiopian captives, young and old, naked and barefoot, even with their tucks uncovered, to the shame of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? All right, how about this, Hebrews? Now, when the Assyrians came and took the northern tribe, you know what I'm saying, and them folks was taken, you know what I'm saying, to Assyria. You know, they took some Ethiopians and some Egyptians too. So, you know, this is the thing, because during the Assyrian captivities is where like 60% of the myths that dominate the world come from this era, when they said that the Israelites was taken from Assyria, and then 10 tribes was taken, and that they went up to Assyria, and then they went up through the Caucasus Mountain where all the enemies was, now where all the historical enemies was, saying that we went up through the Caucasus Mountain, and that we went on up from the Caucasus Mountain where it was real cold at now, and that we went all the way over to Europe, and we stayed over in Europe, and we went to Denmark, and we went to England, and we settled there in all these strange places now, you know what I'm saying, and it's pure madness, pure lies. And then they say that the Hebrews went through a water hole and went to the Americas, and went over in the Americas, ain't had no chariots, ain't had no axles for no wheels, ain't had have no axles for no wheels. Ain't have nothing. You know what I'm saying? But they say that the Hebrews during the Assyrian time came to the Americas. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna show how that's a lie. You know what I'm saying? And how what no Hebrew Israelites in the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade. I show this in all the other videos. How everybody was chased into Africa during the Babylonian wars, but during the Assyrian times, how we were still connected to the land. You see what I'm saying? I just showed how Prophet Isaiah say that we would be kin, cool with the Egyptians and the Assyrians. And then that's called the satire history in Egypt. But ain't no Hebrews made it to no Americas without no, you know what I'm saying, with no chariots, horses, and axles and wheels and houses with upper rooms and windows and farming and everything. So, you know, they can kill that noise. Alright. But check this out. It's called the satire history of Egypt. It's called the satire history of Egypt. It is when the Assyrians come in and they took, you know what I'm saying, them Nubian, Ethiopian stock that was down in Thebes, and then they installed the Mishwish on. But before then, they was having trouble. You know, in 760, 722 BC, I already showed how in 760 they was already wicked with Ashkenazi and them kicking it in Assyria. You know what I'm saying? The Scythians kicking it in Assyria, and that's why Prophet Jonah would sit there. Oh, all right, the Assyrians would try to get them folks about their land and from encroaching on their territory. Them folks were spreading out. They done already swung on around and was all up in the Zagros Mountains and then coming into Babylon. See, the Assyrians controlled Babylon. The Assyrians controlled Babylon, and it was an off and on thing. Sometimes the Babylonians, with the help of the Scythians, would take over important parts in Assyria, and they were ruled for a while, but then them folks would get kicked out. You know what I'm saying? Well, it was about this time that the Assyrians came and kidnapped our fighters. You know what I'm saying? Our fighters gonna be the tribe of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. They lived on the east side. They lived on the east side of the Jordan. You see right there. See, that's their territory. Right there. But them folks will come from that way. Snatch them and try to take them to go help them fight against Ashkenazi. And these was the fighters. The sons of Reuben, the Gadites, the half tribe of Manasseh, valiant men, men able to bear buckler, sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 440,703 that went out to war. And the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul of Assyria and the spirit of Talcanazer, king of Assyria, and carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Hala and Harbor and unto the river Gonzon unto this day. All right, so this dude right here, Saigon gonna go get the tribes too. See, he needed some help too. Them folks was tearing their mouth out. The Ashkenazi was, you know what I'm saying? And this dude right here went and got some of us to help him fight. All right, now this is what's important about this here. I want to read this here because in history they have it all messed up. They got it all messed up and all backwards. They ain't showing that it was a race war going on. But as you read, Sargon was the son, Sargon II. Sargon II was the son of Taglazer III. That's the guy who took some of us. And he appears to have seized the throne from his brother Shalmaneser. That was another Assyrian king. In a violent coup, Sargon was already middle-aged when he come to the throne and was assisted by his son, the crown prince Sennacherib. Sargon's brother Senshur served as his grand vizier. All right, and then as you read down, Sargon was beheaded with widespread rebellion. Now this is the Babylonian scribes version. They'll try to, slick hide history, but this, if you pay attention to this, Sargon was beset with widespread rebellion by the beginning of his rule. Murdoch, that guy right there is a Chaldean Scythian stock right there. A chieftain of the Chaldean. I already showed you how the Chaldeans, the Scythians, Ashkenazi had got into Chaldea. And matter of fact, let me show this history right here, because the prophet Isaiah showed enough to tell you that Assyria was the founders of Chaldea. You see what I'm saying? Of the Chaldean nation. But then Ashkenazi, the Scythians coming in, took it over. Look. Behold, the land of the Chaldeans, this people was not till the Assyrians founded it. For them that dwelled in the wilderness, they set up the towers thereof, saying they have none. The towers thereof, they raised up the palace thereof, and brought it to ruin. Them Ashkenazis brought it to ruin from kicking it there. Well, this dude, Murdoch, Denia, he was of a Scythian origin. You see what I'm saying? And the Assyrians was having it out with them. Look, and the chief of the Chaldean tribes in the marshes of the south declared himself king of Babylon. Now the Assyrians tried to always held control of Babylon. You see what I'm saying? They always tried to held control of Babylon, and here this dude and crowned himself king in 721 BC. You see, now when the Assyrians went to fight them, we would be in the army. You see, and then that's why come the Babylonians will be slick against us, because we will be serving in the Assyrian army while they are attacking these folks. Now the Creator already told you through the prophet Isaiah that we will be friends with the Assyrians, and this is what we was friends with them. You see what I'm saying? During these times when they kidnapped the fighters. Even though the fighters shouldn't have had been taken off to promised land to fight for the Assyrians that worship another god. You see, they had Babylonian gods too. All right, but Sargon and Murdoch met in battle on the plains of the east of Babylon near the city of Dur. And Murdoch Apollodonia was supported by the Elamite, folks. The Elamite troops began to push back the Syrian army, and he retained control of the south and got the title, the King of Babylon. You know what I'm saying? So look, all right, in 717 BC, we will be with the Assyrians. Them fighters. The Syrio-Hittite, that's gonna be that Nephilim Cain element that was in Turkey, where the Persians and all them folks from. I already show you that them folks, share that same, territory. You see what I'm saying? They share that same territory. That's Turkey right there, where the Persian kingdom at. Well, Assyria would be in the fight for their life. You know what I'm saying? They had the city called Kershmish on the upper Euphrates rebelled. They rebelled against Assyria. And Kershmish was a small kingdom situated as an important Euphrates crossing. Sargon, they tried to say he violated, he controlled everything. But anyway, all those folks would come. Look, the Matanians and the Uritans, and all those folks were of Ashkenazi, Nephilim, Cain stock. You see what I'm saying? All them was of a Cain stock. You see what I'm saying? And them folks would come and destroy Assyria in 612 BC. But before then, the Syrians, needed us to help them, and they was fighting against them folks. You know what I'm saying? They was fighting against them folks, and then it was over with. It was curtains for them, and then they would come and get us. You see, they would come after they destroyed the Assyrians. They would come and get us. And it's like I showed you that the Assyrians invaded Egypt. They invaded Egypt trying to get away from them folks around about 671 BC. It was on the countdown. It wasn't nothing but probably about a good 60 years. It was over with for Assyria forever. And Assyria was taking us, trying to get us to help them. That's all that be about in the Bible. But them Babylonian scribes then wrote it up, you know what I'm saying, all messed up. And then that's like I say, after Assyria destroyed, after them Scythians destroyed Assyria, because Assyria kind of like trespassed on our land and stuff, and they had gave King Hezekiah, man, a little problems. But I guess we must have had helped them gain some prominence. We had the fighting tribes must have had helped the Assyrians gain some prominence, because after Hezekiah, his son Manasseh, you know what I'm saying, he was, taken to Assyria. He was taken to Babylon under Assyrian control of Babylon. And he prayed and straightened up and came back home. And then his son Amon got on the throne. And then that's like, I want to put extra emphasis on this too, Hebrew, that, King Josiah, and he was around doing the satire history. The satire didn't end till about 525 BC. That's when it was over with for the Egyptian native rule, and the Assyrian Empire was gone. But the last fruit that was hanging and fighting with the Egyptians and stuff, that's like Hebrews, our last chance to get right and not be enslaved was under King Josiah. And he gonna be right after the Assyrian Empire got destroyed. The creator had them Ashkenazi folks destroy the Assyrians, which would have gave him a chance, King Josiah, a chance to fulfill the prophecies that they said he would fulfill, and he fulfilled them. You know what I'm saying? I can go through his history in detail, and he was our last chance to get right. King Josiah was our last chance to get right. And I'm gonna read his history, because he was after the Assyrian after the Assyrians was destroyed. It's like he come on in 640 BC, and his rule is in 609 BC, and the Egyptians killed him. And now this is the slick part, because King Josiah cleaned up the whole Israel after Hezekiah got us together and tried to bring us all back to the covenant. And then his son Manasseh, he did wicked, and then he tried to straighten up in the end. He started following the Egyptian Amorite culture, and then his son Amon was real wicked. He only ruled 2 years, and then he was killed. And then King Josiah come on. He was a little baby, 8 years old. You know what I'm saying? He was a little baby, 8 years old, and we had our only chance not to be enslaved was under King Josiah. And the Egyptians, the Egyptians who the Assyrians had put on the throne, the Satai kings, Necho, this old evil wicked devil right here, this old evil wicked devil Necho right there, that's Necho. He would kill King Josiah. That Pharaoh right there, after he cleaned up the Egyptian worship. See, long as we was wicked, them nations can take us and come get us and have us fight their battles like America did when they done kidnapped us. They kidnap us, and then they come make us fight their battles and stuff. And that's how them folks stay on and been ruling and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the Assyrians did, you know, and that's what the Babylonians slick wanted to do. But the Persians put their lights out so fast. You know, the Persians put their lights out so fast that they didn't get a chance to do that. But they wanted to do that. You know, and then, you know, back then, it was a race war. But them Hamites and them Hamite related folks would come get us and try to make us fight their battles. And we will fight their battles if we ain't on the covenant, we get snatched and kidnapped and took into slavery. You know, that's like I could show you a time when us Hebrews was fighting, helping the Philistines destroy us, keep us in bondage and stuff. And this, you know, when Saul was fighting the Philistines and they wouldn't let us go down and sharpen our axes and our picks or nothing like that. But you had Hebrews with the Philistines. And then when King Saul started to get the up on them, then they came and, you know, joined their folks and got with their people and stuff. You know, it's a whole lot going on, Hebrews. It's a whole lot going on, Hebrews. But we're going to get it right. And we got to have some correct history. You know, it's like a whole lot of the Hebrews, you know. Some of y'all that's been studying with me, you starting to understand and see, you know, what's going on. But them other groups that ain't studying with the Israelite Brotherhood gonna be using Jewish history. They gonna be using Jewish history from them Jewish myths, and those myths are not meant to bring you into heritage, but to lead you far astray from it. You know what I'm saying? All right, King Josiah. King Josiah was our last chance to get right, but this Satire king who the Assyrians put on the throne would kill King Josiah and would cause us to go into captivity. And he was our last chance to get right, King Josiah, and he was only 8 years old, and he cleaned up the whole kingdom. And then the Egyptians would come out to try to assist the Assyrians, and in their last stance, they would try to come across the promised land after he then cleaned it up. And then they would kill him and put us on the Egyptian religion. And then the Babylonians would come chase us off the land. And we been and abandon our heritage to the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi groups. You know, I got plenty videos explaining how we abandoned our heritage to the Ashkenazi and the Sephardi groups. You know, and the Sephardi groups are going to be the Sephardims. Those are the people that was placed in our land during the Assyrian times. Like I say, a whole lot of wicked stuff was going on. And the Sephardims are going to be the Babylonian scribes. They're Amorites. And we abandon our heritage. We abandon our heritage to them. And they come from Babylon. And they was tainted with that Nephilim, Raphaelim, Canaanite stock. You know what I'm saying? And they come from Cyprus. This river, this place on the Euphrates called Cyprus. And they was placed in our land in 722 BC. And they are responsible for the whole Babylonians' history with all its gods and everything. You know, I guess the Assyrians must have knew about them because, you know, they would construct and help the Assyrians with their library and stuff. And the Assyrian kings' library would come off these folks right here, constructing it for them and keeping the archives and all that stuff. And they controlled all the history in Babylon. And they was placed in our land in 722 BC. And we would go into Africa during the Babylonian wars and would leave them with our heritage and everything. And then, they were storytellers and book writers for thousands of years. For thousands of years, they was book tellers and story writers for thousands of years. And then when we abandoned our heritage to them, we kind of like blotted our own history out and stuff. But that's Ashkenazi right there. And Ashkenazi was settled in the Discopolis. If you read in the New Testament, man, about the Discopolis city, Scythopolis is going to be the head city. And like I say, the Scythians are Ashkenazi, and those are the people that destroyed the Assyrians and who eventually came and chased us up off the land and destroyed us. And they were settled in Scythopolis. Scythopolis is the Discopolis cities in the New Testament, and that's where Jesus spent all his time with them. 95% of his time was spent dealing with Ashkenazi. He was trying to teach Ashkenazi a perverted way of the Edomite heritage that they had gained from, taking over the land after we ran out. You see what I'm saying? And I got history explaining that too. And Ashkenazi, when they came with the Chaldeans, they would shoot so many arrowheads at us, and arrowheads everywhere. Arrowheads still being found today. How they shot them things at us and chased us up off the land. You know what I'm saying? But all this gonna come about, I say all them wicked folks come about is because we got on that Egyptian religion. Because if you see when we Exodus with Moses in the 1400s, everybody was kind of cool and parlaying and getting along with each other. It's just when we came in contact with them Canaanite tribes and tried to uproot them, that then it's like a whole nest of bees was turned loose. And that's what history basically boils down to. And then there was a slick race war because the people who we were sent in to destroy didn't have no pigmentation. Them Canaanite tribes, them Canaanite tribes had mixed up with the Nephilims and the Raphilims, and Canaan must have been born with Tazarat with no pigmentation. And then I show you how the Amorites was so wicked in the videos, and how the Creator saved them because they was throwed out, and then how they turned real wicked. I got a whole bunch of videos explaining this, but Ashkenazi is going to be the peoples that destroyed Assyria. And them going to be the people, you know what I'm saying, that we Hebrews, abandon our heritage to. Alright, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I pray that this history did you something good. And tune in and subscribe also. I ain't got to tell you to subscribe. You should know to do it already so you can keep up with this latest history. You know what I'm saying? That's like I say in the other videos. I show that we only have 800 years in the promised land. But within that 800 years, a whole lot went on. I'm talking about a whole lot went down. And I try to cover some of that history. And then this history gonna be new to a whole lot of you Hebrews, because I'm not using Jewish myths. See, if I was to speak some history that you was familiar with and them Jewish myths, then you really wouldn't be learning nothing. Because you already know them Jewish myths and lies that's been created. Well, this the other side of the coin. It's the truthful side of the coin. You see what I'm saying? And we Hebrews got to study and research ourselves, because them people ain't gonna never tell us no truth. In the history that they wrote is a lie. You got to weave through it. You know what I'm saying? But if you know biblical history already, then you could take the truth out of their lie. You could take the truth out of their lie. And that's what the Israelite Brotherhood been doing, because we know the history and we know what happened to us. We was tricked out of our heritage by a number of people. That's like now today, we'll cry, oh, we Africans, we African Americans, but you don't see them Africans making not one effort to try to help us, and not any kind of way. Some of them say, yeah, if you make it over here to Africa, we'll give you a little place to stay. Man, that ain't nothing. You can go to Russia and they'll give you a place to stay. You can go to China, they'll give you a place to stay. You know, you can go to India, they'll give you a place to stay. We in this by ourselves, Hebrew. You know what I'm saying, Hebrews? You know, we in this by ourselves and we don't have nobody to help us but the Creator. You know, that's why I say, as an individual, I ain't trying to save you with this history. I'm trying to throw a lifeline to us Hebrews, so we can have some correct history to battle our enemies with. Shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.